everybody. Hope that you can hear me okay. It has been quite some time since we have done a live broadcast, and I have been super excited on planning this out. In today's show, my goal is to make sure that each and every one of you has a takeaway, right? So many podcasts that I've done previously, we dig into really deep into cybersecurity, and we talk about certifications, we talk about how to get a job, building your brand, things like that. But today is going to be just a tad bit different. So today I have a really good personal friend of mine, and someone that I met actually not too long ago that really made me think about the business, my career, my personal life, and things like that. So as you know, as many of you know, I've been in this field for cybersecurity for about 20, 25 plus years. And my journey was hard. I started in desktop support. They handed me a book, and I looked in the book, and they said, when the customer calls in, you take a look at this book and you read the answer. Well, the issue was is that not every question they would ask me was in the book. So, but it piqued curiosity. And I watched over people's shoulders and I learned. And from there, I got into systems admin role, network admin role, consulting, did that for a while. And then from there, I grew a passion for cybersecurity. And at the time, I didn't know there was this big difference between tech and cybersecurity, but there is. So I did some training. I landed my first job as a SOC analyst, did that for a while, and then grew this passion for pen testing, penetration testing, ethical hacking, did that for a while. From there, I got into GRC, compliance. I got into the PCI framework, traveled and did that type of work for a while. And what I realized was, and I'll tell this to anybody, I'm an expert of nothing, right? I'm an expert of absolutely nothing. But what has been successful for me is knowing a little bit about a lot of things over the years. So my journey's been interesting, and my whole goal for anyone who watches my content or reads my content and all this goofy stuff I do, my goal is that I can uplift, and if you can learn something from me every day or once a week, or I can put a smile on your face, then for me my job is done. So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about taking charge of your career, not only your career, but also your personal life, because those two go together. If you don't have a healthy balance, you can get caught up in just working too hard and not enjoying your career and just getting tired and getting burnt out. So today I have Zach Hoskins, great guy, and you will feel his level of enthusiasm. It's totally amazing. Really good friend of mine. This is a guy that I'm telling you, use this hour that we have and really take advantage of it. Ask questions in the comment section, whatever. But without further ado, I'm going to click some wrong buttons here. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my good buddy, Zach Hoskins. How you doing, buddy? Can you hear me?
What's going on? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I tell you, if I had a fog machine for bringing you on, you could like walk through the fog. That would be
totally.
Fantastic.
I mean, that fist bump music has me pumped up right now, Mike.
How you doing, man?
Yeah, I couldn't be better. How are you?
I am fantastic. First, thank you so much for taking the time today. You and I, we've had a lot of deep conversations just over the past couple months. And for those that don't know, probably not too many, I met Zach playing pickleball just randomly. And this just goes back to, you never know in your journey who you're going to come across that can have an effect on your life. And I'm always that person that I walk up and shake almost anybody's hand. And hope I probably seem scary to a lot of people because I'm always trying to walk up and talk to them. But you've made a big difference in my journey so far, and you've made me kind of reevaluate things. And it's just having that fresh, new perspective is awesome. So again, thank you for being here. So tell me your story. Tell me your story.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me. And I have to ask one quick question. You always talk about your Taco Bell runs. Was there a Taco Bell run today or not? Fill me in, and then we'll get into.
I get the nervous jitters before I do these, and I thought, it's probably not good that I down like 3 cheesy rice and bean burritos.
That's fair.
Before I start this show, but let me tell you, when this is done, my dog and I are headed to Taco Bell.
Let's
So
go. Let's go. Well, cool. Yeah. So, like Mike said, my name is Zach Hoskins. I'm the CEO and founder of the Efficiency Conductor. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, my story is like a two-sided coin. When I look back over the past, kind of like after high school, after college, like kind of that, or like during college even, I have one side of the coin is a military background. So I served in the United States Air Force, the Air National Guard. I worked on the B-2 stealth bomber, and we can talk more about that later. Awesome time in the military, learning a lot about systems and processes and holding people accountable and discipline and all of these flows of information and all of those different things. And then on the other side of the coin, I've always been really interested in kind of entrepreneurship and like entrepreneurial startups, and always been kind of drawn to these high level, high thinking visionaries. And so that's the other side. So I've kind of been a integrator from EOS terms to these visionaries over the past 10 plus years, just over 10 years. And so what I found is whenever I combined this military background with this drive to like really push my thinking and work with these visionary entrepreneurs to help them create their vision and ultimately bring it down to the ground and give it some traction and give it some life. That's where I really found these two worlds almost colliding. And in a nutshell, that's kind of my story. I mean, there's more to dive into, but I always kind of say it's military background, and then it's kind of like in this entrepreneurial startup realm.
yeah, and you definitely think different than anybody I've run across. And so the past 2 years, I started 2 years ago down this LinkedIn journey and trying to mentor people and fill some voids and things like that. But at the same time, I have a full-time career. I sold my company to Appalachia Technologies, great company. I'll talk about them more in a bit. But so I have a full-time job, right, as a vCISO. But then at the same time, I'm managing all of this social media, and I build these plans, and I have so many things that I'm doing. And I remember the first couple times I talked to you, and and I'm old, right? So I tend to get set in my ways, and I think, the way that I'm doing things, it's right. I can't improve it. But then I run across someone like you that just thinks a little bit different, and you totally kind of tear apart my mindset, but in a good way, right?
Mm.
So I have this vision of where I want to go in my life, in my personal life, where I want to go in my career, where I want to go just on these platforms, being able to reach people. And after talking to you, you and I did, I think one weekend, like a 3-hour call. And I think after that, I kind of took my entire plan. Remember that big easel that I showed you I had on the wall? I took my entire easel that was like my layout, and I just took a towel and just burnt the whole thing down, right? And through your advice, I kind of rebuilt both my personal life and my in the direction of my career as well. And I think that kind of leans into one of the first questions, because you have a couple questions that you ask people.
Mhm.
And I think many of us, we don't stop to kind of think about these questions. We get caught up in the work that we're doing every single day, and we're just busy bees working. So this first question, I'll put it on the screen. Why do we exist? Can you explain that to me? Like, why you asked that question? Let's just talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's very, very in tune with what you just said. We don't take the time to really look at why we're doing what we're doing. We have family obligations, we have social obligations, we have maybe spiritual obligations, financial, career. There's all of these different physical, there's all of these different facets of life. And if you're trying and treading water in all of those and you don't really have a guiding light or a guiding north star, well then how do you know that what you're actually treading water on or executing on is actually what you truly want to do? And so that's always been a passion of mine, is to say, what are the ways that I can answer this question and then reverse engineer down exactly what I'm doing day in and day out
Yeah.
to map back to it? And so, when I ask, why do you exist? I mean, it's truly a question that a majority of individuals may not have ever thought about. And so I always kind of get this like, well, I've never really thought about it,
Yeah.
or I'm not really sure where to take that. And so then I kind of go into, and Mike, I loved your thought about like, or in the intro, you said, you wanted to give someone a takeaway, and it's my goal as well. I want you to be able to take away one thing from this time that we shared together today and implement it directly after this. And so this is a key point. I might like tap my foot or hold up a sign or something at some of these. But one of the best ways that you can do this, and it's very vulnerable and it's very scary, is writing your own eulogy. And so if you
Interesting.
are,
Interesting.
this has been the best way that I've found to say, like, okay, why do I exist? I just take myself to the end of my life and I look back across the entire thing and I say, what do I truly want the individual sitting in that room and the person speaking over my life, or whatever that looks like, to say about me? And to the degree that you can answer that and say, well, this is what I truly wanted to be, and this is how I wanted to make people feel, and this is what I wanted to accomplish. Well, that's a great starting point to the answer of the question, why do I exist?
I love that. So let me turn this question back to you for a second, because I know you probably have a great answer for this. So Zach Hoskins, why do you exist? What's your purpose when you wake up every day?
For sure. So my purpose is to glorify God using the gifts he's given me, which are positivity, relationship building, encouragement, and accountability, to help others achieve their missions, because I believe everyone deserves to live a life they love.
Yep.
That's so from all of these different pieces, after writing my eulogy and after writing, kind of going through some of these thought processes and frameworks, that was the one sentence that I'll read every single morning and just say, hey, if I'm doing anything that is against that, it's a very clean filter for me.
Yeah, I love that, and I feel like everything you're doing is really for other people. You're not a selfish person. You're thinking of other people all of the time. So I have not thought of my eulogy, but I don't think that I need to, because I just got new life insurance, and I believe my wife is writing mine. So
you know how that goes. We got to watch
just,
it back sometimes now.
yeah, absolutely. So to let me kind of relate this to a lot of the audience that we have here today. So
Yeah.
today is a mixed audience, right? We have people rolling in from X, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and who knows where else. These are people that are entry level, trying to break into tech/cyber. These are business owners. These are partners. These are people that are mid-level, senior level in their career, that are just busy bees, working every day. Sometimes getting rejected by recruiters, getting ghosted, things like that. So, with this first question, or what would you, if they were sitting in a room with you, or you had to speak to them, what would you tell these people that are struggling every single day with just busy in and out, trying to make something of themselves?
Yeah. I think the first question I would ask is, are you happy?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them might even say, I'm trying to get happy.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them might say, I'm trying to reach my goals.
That's
so
right.
I can be happy.
And so at that point, it leads into the permission of the question. Well, okay, if you're trying to become happy, then how can you make sure that you're taking the right steps to get happy? Have you defined happiness? All of those types of things. And so, if you blatantly say you're not happy, well, then I think that's an awesome opportunity. It's an awesome opportunity to look inward and kind of do a little bit of work to see what's the best way to get happy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that kind of that kind of leads us right into our second question of what do you stand for? So
Yeah.
can you talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So one of my passions here is as soon as you have, and I call this kind of the first two questions your North Star. So if you have why you exist and what you stand for always out there as your North Star, well, you can always drive towards that. And really, no matter where you go, you're going to be going in the right direction. Because as you know, Mike, like I could assume that your career path and your journey from let's say early childhood to now has definitely not been a straight line.
Absolutely not.
Right.
No.
But so to the degree that you can keep your North Star north, well, it doesn't matter as long as you
Yes.
are weaving back and forth, but
Yep.
still keeping that North Star. So what do we stand for ultimately, or what do I stand for ultimately comes down to what are the things that you're trying to impart on the people that you're interacting with in your life, whether that be your family, your colleagues, your coworkers, your boss, your whoever you're managing, those types of things. And so traditionally, these are called core values. And so I just combine them in this why do I exist? What do I stand for fashion? And so if you can get to the point where you have why do I exist and these 3 to 5 core values of what you
Yeah.
stand for, you have a solid North Star that you can go attack really
Yep.
any opportunity with.
Yep, you're right. And you said earlier, sometimes you're gonna stray, right? And many times just by getting out there and shaking hands with people and building relationships. And when I mentor, I talk about this hallway. I try to envision walking down this hallway. And in this hallway, you have two doors. You have a door that goes right and you have a door that goes left. And you think, I got to pick one of those two doors. Well, the truth is, if you're not super proactive and those are the doors you see, you are going to have to pick one of those doors.
Mhm.
But when you get out there and you build relationships, you try to make a difference. You have a purpose of life. You have something that you stand for, and you're meeting people. Now, all of a sudden, when you're walking down this hallway, now you have doors 3, 4, and 5 light up with different opportunities that you didn't even know existed,
That's a great
right?
point.
And just by getting yourself out there and living your life and meeting people and being part of something can bring you opportunity and open doors that you had no clue ever existed. So I can tell you, when I was younger, I had a plan, right? But I didn't know that my plan had another plan for me. And so you have to, you can't put the blinders on. You have to be open. You have to be just open to new opportunities. And the old cliche saying of think outside the box is
Mhm.
is, is absolutely true. So
That's right. I love your analogy about the hallway. And the cool thing about that is it's gonna have a two-sided kind of effect here. It's going to open up tons of doors, having the why you exist and what you stand for, because you're pinpointed on where you actually want to go. It's going to open up tons of doors. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to turn the light out on some of those doors that are
absolutely,
100% not for you. So it
yes,
kind of guides you in this direction to say, like, that one is definitely not for me.
yep.
This one is cool and interesting and maps to it. So that's very interesting too, how that can work.
Yeah, and sometimes when you can only see a door or two, you think those are your destinations,
Mhm.
right? When really, like you just said, you got to light up some more doors, you know. So for everyone who's watching, in the meantime, feel free to post your questions in the comments. We're gonna pick some good ones and field those as we go. But so I want to kind of jump into our third question,
Mhm.
right? So your three questions. First question is why do we exist,
Mhm.
right? What do you stand for? And we talked about that. And number three, and I really want everyone who's in this room today to really think about this because everybody here is working hard every day to make a difference, to learn, to better their personal life, to better their family situation, to better their career. So third question is where are you going? So can you
Mhm.
talk about this one?
Yeah, for sure. So another question that we don't normally ask ourselves, where are we going? We just got this, maybe we just graduated high school and we knew we wanted to go to college. And we said, okay, now it's college and I'm got to get that degree. And then thankfully, maybe we found the recruiter and the recruiter got us into this job. And now we're in this job. And now, oh gosh, now I'm working and I'm putting out fires and I haven't had a chance to take a step back and I'm putting food on the table and I'm trying to make sure my body's good and all of these different, trying to balance all of it. But you haven't had a chance to actually say, like, okay, does this actually make sense to where I actually want to go?
Yeah.
And so whenever you have your North Star, your why we exist and what we stand for, that becomes your North Star. And what I like to do is I like to say, where are you going is your peak. It's the summit you're currently climbing, the mountain you're currently climbing. We put it at the top. We put the pin or the flag at the top of Mount Everest, and we start to trek that way. And so the question here is put out a timeline, call it 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, but do it just a little bit farther than what you're comfortable with is the key.
Yep.
So if you say 5 years, I can kind of like see what that's, okay, well, let's try 10. And so if you have this 10-year, where are we going, this 10-year summit, some of the questions to ask yourself is what do I want to, like, put yourself 10 years ahead of time. So let's say it's 2024 right now. It's January 31st, 2024. So we're going to go to January 31st of 2034 in a time machine. This is that framework brain, trying to get our mindsets into this. We're going to look back and we're going to say, what would have had to happen both personally and professionally for me to feel happy about my progress?
Yeah.
And so if you can answer those and start to say, okay, what do I want to be? What do I want to have? What do I want to do? What do I want to be experiencing? All of those questions. What do I want to be creating? You start to jam on some of that and get those juices flowing. You can really put a cool flag out there that might be in line with what you're doing now, or it might not.
Yeah, I think all of that is fantastic, and I'll tell you, Zach, it's easy to have that vision and then get distracted, right?
Right.
It was a couple months ago, you showed me a template that you
Mhm.
have. So when I wake up in the morning, I have a normal ritual that I do. I start my work, I do a few things, and I do a ton of different things at the same time. Sometimes at the end of the day, I look back and say, man, I worked so hard today, but I didn't really accomplish the balance of what I accomplished doesn't seem to weigh up to the work that I put in.
Mm.
And a lot of that is because I sometimes self-diagnose myself with ADHD.
Sure.
I'll do something for 3 minutes and I'll jump over here for 3 minutes and over there for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest enemy, right?
Yeah.
So you have a template that you gave me a while
Mhm.
back of just so we talk is one thing, right?
Yeah.
But actually putting things down in writing and living by that,
Mhm.
no matter what your journey is, no matter what your goals are in your life, you have to have something written down. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen, but if you can explain this, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is, and I'll give you a little bit of context. If you've never seen an example of time blocking or blocking your time, this is exactly kind of where that is going. So what I did was I created this template of your ideal week. And so it's very interesting that when you have your why you exist, your what you stand for, and where you're going, you can start to map out your week in a way that starts to get you towards those goals. And it kind of allows you to currently audit where your time is going. And so this is, it's a template that's just during the workday. You can expand it for before work and after work, but this one's specifically for during the workday. And a cool way to start here is to just audit your time. Where is your time going? So the first step here is to delete everything out of this template and basically just type in, hey, Monday at 8 a.m., what am I doing? And then Monday at 12 p.m., what did I end up doing? And so it's a cool way to audit your time. How am I currently spending my time? And then what you can do is you can, after you've audited your time, you've kind of seen where you're at, you can then start to map out what your time can actually go to and where you can actually, and the categories of the time. And it goes into a little bit of those different categories as well. And so it just kind of gives you a cool way to visualize where you're currently spending your time, and then map out where you might like to ideally spend your time in a ideal week.
And your discipline is pretty solid in there. I mean, you have when you're going to eat. I mean, you have your day laid out. And I've never seen, we all put things on our calendar, right? But we don't put those in betweens. I got a meeting at 1 o'clock. I have a meeting at 3 o'clock.
Mhm.
But what am I doing in between that meeting? Is that
Yeah.
time efficient? Am I taking time for myself?
Mhm.
And as I said, many people that are watching today, many people in this community that we've built are working. We have people that are raising kids and working two jobs and trying to put themselves through school,
Mhm.
trying to take care of their own health, trying to take care of their kids, trying to make a difference in their career, right?
Mhm.
So what would you say to those people that just feel like they're barely hanging on, but they're working and working and working to make that, to make that difference, that improvement, that happiness that they're seeking in their life?
Yeah. Well, I would say you're doing a great job
Yeah, I
regardless.
think that's a fantastic answer.
You know what I mean? I would say feel free to give yourself grace, because this life is hard.
Yeah,
And if you are balancing all of that, my hat is off to you. And this is definitely not easy. So that's one preface that I would put out there. Um, I think there are micro steps that you can begin to take, because it's not a light switch. None of this stuff that we're talking about today is a light switch. I mean, we're talking about transformations over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so I would continue to say, hey, maybe if the only thing you do is answer the question why you exist, and maybe in that question, it's, hey, I want to take really good care of my kids. I want to raise up amazing children, and I want my body to feel fit.
yeah,
Well, at that point, maybe you don't change anything. Maybe you take control of your life, and maybe you let your career kind of take the back seat for a little bit,
yeah,
but you know why you exist. And so then you have your why you exist, what you stand for, where you're going. Maybe 10 years down the road, you'd like to be in a different career. Well, now that you know you want to take care of your children and you want your body to be, an able body, or like as you're, working out and physically fit, well, then what small steps over the next 90 days, over the next 6 months could you take to start maybe introducing yourself, to maybe start, uh, you know, connecting with people on LinkedIn, like Mike, you share with a lot. What are those small micro steps that you can take? Because yeah, the last thing we want to do is add another thing to our plate if we're fighting fires all day.
I agree. And looking at the comment from Monica here, it's just staying disciplined is a challenge, especially with kids. I get that, right?
Mhm.
I want to work out every day. I don't find time to. I feel that your spreadsheet could help with that.
Mhm.
So you have a spreadsheet. How can people get this from you? Obviously, for everybody here, I'm going to put Zach's LinkedIn account and website in the comments. But connect to him,
Mhm.
reach out to him. What's the best way that they can get this template from you? I mean, you're pretty much giving it away, right?
Yeah, for sure. I want to give this to you guys for sure as easily as I can. And so the best way to do that is to go on LinkedIn, look me up,
Yeah.
follow this link that Mike gives you, uh, connect with me, send me a DM. I will just respond directly to you. One, thanking you for watching this, and just thanking you for being a part of this community and a part of what Mike's built. And it's just a joy to see all of that. But then also give you a little bit of encouragement and send you that template completely free. So
Yeah,
definitely want
that's
that to
that's
help.
awesome, and it's kind that you're doing that, and it just goes as a testament of, what kind of person you are, and this episode is a little bit different than the norm for me because, like I said, as I said before, I brought you on. Normally, we're talking tech, and we're going down all these career paths and different
Yeah.
routes. But I thought, this is my first show of 2024. Didn't
Mhm.
do one in January. Well, technically I did. It's the last day of January. So I got that. But really what I wanted people to be able to learn from you is to take that step back, take that 30,000 foot view
Mhm.
of what you're doing every day and reevaluating the direction you're going in, why you exist. Are you happy? How can you get there? Is your day being used efficiently? Do you have a good balance? Because I mentor several people, and the people that I mentor, many of them, they're workaholics, and that's great. But many times they're burning themselves out, and because they work so hard and they burn themselves out, they begin to almost hate the career that they're going into, because they're like, I'm
Mhm.
doing all of this stuff, I'm getting tired. And
Yeah.
many times I say, you got to take a break. You know what? Disappear for a week, take a break from your studies, and reach out to me in a week. Put that phone down. Put those classes down for a day or two, and then come back.
Mhm.
So I have a question here. It says, for those of us struggling to enter tech, what is a realistic first role to expect in a realistic career timeline? How often to change jobs? How quick to expect? There's a lot of questions in a question there, but they're good, right? So here's what I would tell you, and this is any path. This is any career. There is no, especially tech and cyber. There's no blueprint for this career. Knowledge is power. If you can learn, and I'll use a SOC analyst as an example. And Zach, I know you're not a cybersecurity guy,
Sure.
but a SOC analyst is someone that helps detect incidents and detect events, and staring at those screens just like they do on TV, in the movies and so
Yeah. Sure.
on. So if you're going down a path, I'll just use that as an example. Most people in this field, they don't care how you've learned the knowledge that you've learned. They only care that you have obtained it and that you can demonstrate it. Right now, as far as pay and career timeline, again, that's up to you. Here is where most people, and I think Zach, you can relate to this too from a marketing side. Here is where 95% of the people I mentor are failing before we talk, when they come to me. We are all good at developing tech skills or developing our career skills and learning. What most of us aren't good at is being able to now market and be that salesperson for those skills, knowledge, and wisdom and experience that we've acquired over the years. And my wife can't stand my analogies, but I'm going to use one, right? So I tell many people when they come to me, they've got all kinds of certs, they've got experience, they're ready to land that next big job. So I tell them, you're like that brand new shiny Corvette with all the aftermarket parts and the loud muffler, like you're ready to roar down the road. But the issue is that car that you're trying to sell, right, is parked on the back of the lot with a tarp over it, and there's no traffic driving by it. So no matter how much you learn or how good the product, the knowledge is that you have in your head, or how many certifications you have, if you can't sell the car, right, it does you no good. So what I try to teach people, and I think Zach does the same thing, is how to take that car, how to take the tarp off and put it now on the front of the lot where the highway is, where all that traffic is driving by. And LinkedIn is why most of you are here, but LinkedIn is a fantastic platform for doing that. And I put a post, I think it was yesterday, about the LinkedIn wallflower, right? Most of LinkedIn users are wallflowers. I was for years, where, picture yourself, LinkedIn's the largest networking party on the planet. And picture yourself at this networking party and you're a wallflower. You're that guy or girl that's just leaning against the wall in the back, sitting on a bench, watching everybody else, right? Zach's in the middle of the room, chugging a keg, Zach.
Just fist pumping to that music.
Yeah. Everybody knows his name, but you're leaning back against the wall. I did that for years. Well, it doesn't do you any good if you go to a networking event and you lean against that wall. You have to peel yourself off that wall. You can stay within your comfort zone if you want to. I would recommend getting outside of it a little bit, but peel yourself away from that wall just a little bit. Shake someone's hand. Now, what I mean even virtually on LinkedIn, make a connection, reach out to someone, engage with someone. It's not about who you know. You hear that all the time. It's about who you know. It's not. It's about who knows you, right? So by peeling yourself off that wall, getting yourself out there, your the ladder climb in your field it can be as fast as you're gaining knowledge and experience. It's up to you, but you have to be able to market yourself as well. That is officially, I think, the longest roundabout answer I gave to a single question ever.
I think it was great. I'll add one quick piece. A mentor of mine once told me that the most interesting people are the most interested.
Yeah, I think that's
So to the degree that you can pop off that wall and ask a genuine question to someone that you see out there, there's a lot of people who like to talk about themselves, which is totally fine. And so if you can be genuine and ask them one question that I absolutely love to ask that has kind of helped me come out of my shell and come off the wall is, let me see how to phrase it. So like one is like, what's an opportunity that you have currently?
Yeah.
Like, or, there's just a bunch of different questions that you could, but try and simplify it down and just ask maybe something that they may be excited about.
Yes.
Is a
Yes.
very, very good way.
You're exactly right. And then when you ask, because it's like you said, many people, they love to talk about themselves. I read a book a long time ago. I don't remember what the book was, but and it stuck with me. More than anything, people love hearing their own name because they've been called their name since they were babies. People love hearing their name. They love talking about themselves. So our goal is to surround ourselves with people that we can learn from, right? Just be a sponge, right? I've learned from you. Maybe you've learned something from me.
I've learned a ton from you, my man.
I'm fortunate to have surrounded myself with all of these people on this platform and X and YouTube that I can learn from. But then comes the hard part, right? I'm an extrovert. Talking is easy for me. You know what's hard for me is listening, being a good listener. So now I've surrounded myself by all of these people, and many of you have here watching this. You're surrounded by all of these people. Now, one of the hardest skills is listening and absorbing. Would you agree with that?
100%. Super difficult.
Yeah, it is. Many leaders out there like to just, and I'll tell people this as you're climbing your career ladder and you work yourself into management roles and maybe C-suite roles, what have you. Many people get into those roles and they point fingers and they direct, right? But you're not supposed to direct. You're supposed to lead, and you lead by listening to your team, by analyzing what they're telling you, by trying to process that, so that when you do speak, you can make a difference and make an informed decision off of that as well.
Absolutely.
And Tom Bishop has it here. He says, if you're the smartest person in a room, find another room to invite into your room. Yeah, if you're the smartest person in a room, you need to that should never be a goal. You need to find find another room. I had another question here I wanted to hit real quick. This is along from my good buddy Jared here in Springfield. Says, one of the things I've struggled with being in tech and wanting to advance myself is a vast array of options for knowledge search. Sometimes my mind wanders and I start to think, hey, maybe I'm studying the wrong thing. Maybe this isn't the best source. Any tips on keeping the old brain on one path and not looking over the pages and searching for the latest and greatest? Zach, I'll let you take this one, and then I'm going to follow up on it.
Yeah, I mean, so the way that I still go always back, like I will always go back to these filter questions. Why do I exist? What do I stand for? Where am I going?
Yeah.
All of us, a majority of us, might struggle with shiny object syndrome. And so my favorite thing whenever I get I imagine whenever I get an idea and I'm like, oh, that could be interesting, or, oh, I think I'm missing out on that. I need to, or I should, any of those, I grab it and I toss it basically up against the proverbial backboard of why do I exist? What do I stand for? Where am I going? And if it goes in because it aligns with those three things, awesome. Feel totally fine and comfortable going after that. If it bounces off because it's just like, gosh, that isn't going to work, or that doesn't truly align with where I want to go, it bounces off and the filter works. I know it may be difficult in a specific kind of area or a specific certification, but to the degree that you can kind of laser focus in on those 3 questions, it can at least give you a solid starting point.
I love that. So having that solid, it's it's really starting to sink in, your questions, because it seems like any issue that you're having, you can kind of go back and ask those 3 questions. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like having a solid foundation. If you're building a house and you're building the different rooms and you get confused, what do? You go back and look at a blueprint of
Mhm.
where you started from, and then you kind of reanalyze and then you restart. What's the same thing? You go back and you look at this blueprint of these 3 questions. So I love that. And Jared, I'm going to answer this I'm going to roll this into even a more cybersecurity / tech related answer as well. Since 90% of the people here are tech. In my journey, as like I said at the very beginning of this call, before this session, before I brought Zach on, I'm an expert of nothing. And Zach, I've told you that. Jared, you know that. We've had
Mhm.
lunch together. I'm the first person to tell you I'm not the expert in the room, but I know a little bit about a lot of things. And I think in your career, I think you have 2 choices, right? I think you have to look at where you want to go, which goes back to Zach's questions of, where do you want to go, right? And if you are really shooting for, in our field, if you're shooting for a director role, management role, things like that, supervisor, leadership type roles, I can't say this works for everybody, but for me, knowing kind of the broad knowledge of the industry, red team, blue team, GRC, and having that broad knowledge, right? I worked in pen testing, SOC, PCI, all of those different things. Even though I'm not an expert in any of those, I can sit in a room and I can have great conversations with teams, and I can advise them. And I've found myself many times to be the conduit between the very technical people and the stakeholders, board level, C-suite level, what have you. Sometimes I'm that conduit in between that communicates between them. So I would say you kind of have what I had, Jared, where you want to learn so many things, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, right? Now, if you want to be the world's greatest pen tester, the world's greatest SOC analyst, then you have to kind of change that focus a little bit and say, you know what, there are all of these other things out there. I want to be a world-class pen tester and a lead, then you really have to kind of put those blinders on and really focus on that. But Jared, I would say with where you're at, I know where you're at in your journey, I think you're doing things right. You have that curiosity, and Zach, you got to meet this guy. He's got that curiosity, and it's just like in his blood. So I don't think there's any wrong way that you can go. So again, another super long answer to that was a super long question, so he deserved that one.
For
So,
sure. For sure.
yeah. I'm going to bring this one up here real quick, Zach. My buddy Logan here says, do you think focus can affect outcomes? For example, focusing on negative emotions, events, or other things in your life can derail you because you're distracted from all the positive things. I feel like I see this often. What would you say to that one?
I think there could be some potential lines here that you could cross. I tend to think that, giving focus to, it depends on what the negative emotion or what the negative event is. I think there's a lot I'm a big fan of the Daily Stoic and Ryan Holiday, and, kind of the stoic way of saying like, hey, is this in my control? Or is this something that's out of my control? And I'll be the first one to tell you that I deal with this day in and day out. I mean, there's something this week that's just like on my mind that it's difficult to not, focus on until I get it resolved.
Yeah.
And so something that I just need to learn to get better at doing is saying like, okay, I see that negative event, and I recognize that that's out of my control. What is in my control is focusing. So Logan, I couldn't agree more. I think that focusing on the positives, or I definitely think that focusing on the outcomes, or focusing on the effect of the outcomes is totally real. And if you focus more on the positive in a healthy way and not in some sort of like toxic positivity way, but in a healthy way of looking at here's the good thing that could happen, or here's the good things that are happening, and here's the things that I can control, good things will
Yeah.
happen.
I think, yeah. And sometimes you just have to prioritize, like you said, what you need to take care of
Mm-hmm.
right now. And many times that prioritization may change because you have different events coming up.
That's right.
And us tech people sometimes get so focused on tech, right? And we surround ourselves with other people that are in tech, but not so much people that have that 30,000 foot view of what the heck are you doing every day, right? So I would tell the crowd who's watching this today, someone like, I didn't realize after I met you and I realized what you did, how much value, because you're not in tech, right? So how
Yeah.
how could you bring value to my life, my career? I mean, but besides our fantastic friendship, what I would say is the value that you bring just by being able to look at things from that high level. I don't care if you're in the medical field, if you're a farmer, whatever it is, um, surrounding yourself with people like yourself, Zach, um, just makes a huge difference, because we tend to just focus on what we think is in front of us. And sometimes it's nice just I know it's made a big difference for me, just stepping back. For me, my biggest struggle, and I'll tell everybody here, a moment of transparency. Over the past 2 years, I had 500 connections. About 2 years, 3 months ago, I had probably less than 500 connections on LinkedIn, and I came to this platform and I grew, and I've had a blast with it. But then comes, what do I do with all of this? I've got all these notifications and all these inbox messages. I want to help everybody, right? And it's just been, for me, I reached a point, I think when you met me was when it was getting to be, you could probably feel it in me, right? Because I was trying to grow on a platform and trying to have my message reach tons of people, but it was slowly wearing me out. So you kind of helped me take my easel down, and what did you call it? You called it burning the business.
Burn the business to the ground.
Yeah, burn a business to the ground, right? And start over and reevaluate. And for me, it's helped me really refocus, because I felt like I was doing good at a lot of things. But as I told you, I wasn't doing great at anything. But this year, in 2024, I want to do great. I do good at my job. I do good at LinkedIn. I do good at X. And I think I'm a pretty good husband. But this year, in 2024, I want to be great at those things. And I think, Zach, with what you've kind of, laid out there as far as information for me and information for these other people, I think is key. So please, people, connect to Zach. He's a great guy. Zach, who's a better pickleball player, me or you?
It's a good question. It depends on the day, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
if it's overcast, maybe you. If I've had Taco Bell that day, I don't know, maybe me. It depends. I don't know.
That's true. We need to meet up in a tournament here soon. So.
There's a lot of factors there. I think it also depends on our doubles partners as well. I mean,
I think it does.
It ends up being.
I have a feeling mine's watching. I asked him to tune in today. So.
Very good. Very good.
Well, Zach, is there anything that you would like to? We're slowly coming up on our time, and we'll open up the Q&A for a second. Is there anything that you would just like to kind of close out on or add?
I just want to take a moment to share how impactful, Mike, you've been on my life. I think that, like you said, the first time we met playing pickleball, and just like your energy and your ability to conversate and to be interested. I mean, I literally watched what you said. You told the audience to do. I watched it happen in real time. You came up to me. We played pickleball. We become really, really good friends, if not best friends, and what this looks like. And so it's just been cool to watch your journey and have your help and have you be in my corner through my growth journey. And I just couldn't be more thankful for the example that you're setting of giving so much value, more value than you'll ever receive. I always go back to Gary V's 51-49. Always give more than you receive. And
Yeah.
anytime I think about that, I always think about you. And so I just thank you for what you're doing for this community, all the value you're providing, all of that. And I hope the audience feels that way too, because you're doing some really, really cool things. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it.
I mean, I didn't expect that. I really appreciate that, and it's been great meeting you and having you and I. We laugh like crazy,
That's
uh,
right.
and we have a lot of fun. And I think there's a lot of good times to come. And for those watching, there's a possibility that Zach, you're going to see him again. We're going to be doing this show weekly. And I think Zach is going to kind of sit in as a what would you call it, a commentator?
Oh, I don't know. Peanut gallery. I
Yeah,
might.
maybe. Yeah, just for some good laughs and so on. So get familiar with his face. Good guy, and he's got so much more to offer. So I'm going to kind of give a last chance here to ask any questions, and we'll try to answer those quick. I know we're coming up on the top of the hour. In the meantime, I am going to just stop for a second and make 2 thank yous while you guys are punching in your questions. First and foremost, I got to thank my employer, Appalachia Technologies, fantastic company, MSSP, top 250 MSSP in the nation, located in Pennsylvania, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, actually. Great company. We've got such a great symbiotic relationship. Small company, but anyhow, if you need any pen tests and vCISO services, what have you, check them out. Google them, add them on LinkedIn, what have you. And then last but certainly not least, last year I hooked up with a man named Jacob Hill from GRC Academy, and he runs a podcast. He's a director of cyber operations and has more than 15 years of experience in the field. And we're all trying, there's so many people that are trying to break into the field of GRC, and the knowledge that this man has is incredible. And so he has a podcast now. In each episode, he talks about the different frameworks, NIST, CMMC, FedRAMP, hacking, zero trust, all of the good stuff, even the power grid, things like that, how vulnerable it can be, and can really teach a lot of things. So it's grcacademy.io. Please check it out. And I'm going to, after this podcast, after the show, I'm going to add those links to the comments as well. I'm also going to add in Zach's website. And so I don't get it wrong. What is your website, Zach?
Yes, so it's theefficiencyconductor.com.
And you mainly work with businesses, right? Which is, I know that there's some business partners sitting in this room.
Yeah.
But I think even on a personal level, you have so much to offer. And I think that you're going down that hallway and you already have so many doors open, but what you don't realize is there's so many doors yet that are going to open for you from getting yourself out there like this. And so keep your eyes open, man. You have a great future, and I respect you so very much. So let's go back here real quick and see if there's any other questions here. So Mark asked about the time block spreadsheet.
Yes.
Reach out to Zach Hoskins on LinkedIn. I'll have a link in here. I'll put it on the YouTube channel as well. Reach out to him there. Just PM him.
Yep.
He's all about building relationships. I'm sure he would be more than happy to get to know you and to send that to you. And he doesn't want to
love to hear from you. Connect up with me. Send me a DM, and I will shoot that over to you. Can't wait to connect for sure.
Awesome. And last question I'm going to let you answer this, Zach.
Okay.
This is a good one.
Oh man.
What book recommendations?
Okay, so I will tell you this, and I'm going to direct you to a post on my LinkedIn. I just posted a list. So something that I'm doing this year is I am taking a less but better approach. And so I'm not reading any new books. I'm going back and I'm reading the top 10, going deeper instead of wider, reading the top 10 books that transformed my life. I posted on that in my LinkedIn. There's 10 books there.
I saw that.
Go over to my profile, look at my post. Should be a couple, down there. If you don't see it, feel free to shoot me a message and I'll get that. But just a couple off the top of my head. Seth Godin, The Song of Significance, High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard, What's in It for Them by Joe Polish. I mean, all of these books are on that post, so please go check it out.
I met Seth one time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorite.
Have you met him? Have you met him in person?
I was in I took one of his courses and I was in the same Zoom room. He was in there, but I've never personally met him. But he's amazing.
Yeah, he can light up a room for sure. So.
Absolutely.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. Zach,
yes, thanks.
Thank you so much. I will hopefully see you next week at Pickleball.
Absolutely.
And in between. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you feel that someone else can be helped by this, feel free to share it out. And one last announcement. I almost forgot this. Everybody in this room, I started the new Discord channel. It's just called Break-In Cyber.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have the link at the bottom of the descriptions. But check it out. I think a lot of these people are already in the Discord. You can Zach's in there as well. You can sit in there with there's a ton of other cyber professionals, tech professionals. So definitely check that out. So
for sure.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Zach, take care.
Thanks. See ya. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.